It's the JT the Brick Show.
This is the silver and black. This is the Raiders. This is a historic franchise. This is no ordinary job.
Your silver and black home to sound off for over 25 years.
I don't care if I offend somebody. If it isn't right, I'm going to stop practice. We're going to do it the right way.
And now, here's JT the Brick.
Out of the gate, JT, as we begin today on the flagship of the silver and black. This is Raider Nation Radio. And what a show we got lined up today. Wow. We're going to be all over the place today. Phil Villapiano, one of the greatest Raiders and the greatest Raider storyteller of all time. He's got a brand new book out. And if you're watching the feed on YouTube, which you should, we got a YouTube channel here. You'll see the book right here in front of me. We're going to have him on the phone in Jersey. The name of the book is Just Tackle Baby, Living Life the Raiders Way. So we're going to get settled in here. We're going to welcome everybody. We're going to tell everybody to jump in, and we're going to get rolling. Also, Hacksaw at the bottom of the hour. The franchise, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. He is not Raider friendly. He is not Raider friendly. He's the former voice of the Chargers, but he's one of the most influential sports talk hosts, I think, ever. I base my monologue on Hacksaw every day. Detailed, 15, 20 minutes, out of the gate, go fast. That's all because of Hacksaw and what I learned from him early in my career. And then in the final hour of the show, in studio, Hagen Smith. He is a great beach volleyball player. AVP Volleyball's in town at Resorts World, and he's coming in studio. His dad was Sinjin Smith, a legend, a god in that world. So with all that happening here, Phil Villapiano is going to join us momentarily. We'll get him going out of the gate, and we'll talk about his book. And I'm starting to read the book, and I have a feeling it's going to be epic. You know, everybody who has a Raider book in their life, in my house, I have a library in my house of mostly books I've never read, but they look really good as they are positioned in my house. And I got pretty much all the Raider books that matter. Ken Stabler, you know, Lincoln Kennedy with Paul Gutierrez. You look through the history. Jim Otto, one of my prized possessions. Phil Villapiano and Fred Biletnikoff wrote the foreword to this, so I'm very excited about that. So we're going to dive in with Fu on his legendary career, and as you know, he's such a great storyteller that I'm sure he's going to have some good stories here overall. So that's where we're going to go. We want to hear from you throughout the show. 702-365-9200 is the number. If you want to get in and sound off like you got a pair, we're watching the U.S. Open in golf. Rory McIlroy has the lead at 3 under, and considering how difficult the golf course is today, how brutal the golf course was today with the wind, that's a great number. That's an unbelievable number. So I'll give you score updates on that and the World Cup. But the book is Just Tackle Baby, Living Life the Raiders Way. Phil Villapiano with co-author Todd Schmidt, and Fu, who's been on this show maybe 100 times throughout my career, joins us again. Phil, in advance, congratulations on this life venture, the new book. How are you?
JT, thanks for saying that. And I am great. And this, you talk about an adventure. this book has been a year and a half. And Todd and I started a year and a half ago. And we just finished. And it's work, JT. It is work.
Yeah.
And you got to use your brain, and you got to think about all these things and keep it going in the right direction. It's really quite a. I don't recommend anybody to write a book. It is too hard.
Yeah, I wrote one with the co-author, too, I'm proud of, and it was a life passion. And, you know, what's interesting as we get into your story is, what was your goal? Because for years you've been one of the greatest storytellers, and we'll get into NFL films and that chapter in your life. But when you looked at the early years growing up, Bowling Green, before you became an NFL player, what were the early influences in your life, Phil, as a young boy growing up where you knew you had some athletic ability and maybe you can chase a sports dream?
Yeah, you know, JT, that's kind of where it all started. I was in Asbury Park, New Jersey, which is pretty good town. I mean, rough town, tons and tons of kids. Everybody in the park all the time. Everybody playing different sports. You know, every season you had to change from baseball to football to basketball. You know, and everybody. I just grew up with so many athletes, and the craziest thing was this. The first time I ever got into a football game was at the boys club, and we actually had coaches, and my coach was my Uncle Neil, and Uncle Neil Raza was his name, good old paisan, and this guy just made me feel like $1 million when I played football, and he saw me hit people, and he goes, well, you know, you're pretty good at this game. And I don't know, maybe it was his encouragement and you know, playing against other guys, and it was organized. That was kind of cool. You know, you had a referee, and so I got hooked on football at the boys club in this crazy town, and it never got old, JT. I just wanted to play football every day.
And how was your skill set at that point with your size and strength and growing into your body as you go to Bowling Green and make a name for yourself before the Raiders? How did you compete with guys who were bigger than you, because you built a reputation about being a hard-nosed, tough tackler? The book is Just Tackle, Baby. How did you hang out with the bigger guys and the tough guys as you were trying to make your name?
It's crazy. The bigger they were, the harder I wanted to hit them. I wanted the big guys. I wanted to deal with those guys. I wanted to tackle the best guys. And I had this attitude that nobody's better than me in football. And I remember, oh God, this is crazy though. When I threw a body block, at somebody's legs one time, and the legs went right out from under him, and he hit on his head. And I was just so proud of myself for developing this. I mean, I thought I made up the cross body block in your legs. It was like, this is wonderful. I could make a guy do a flip and land on his head. Well, that's what kind of, if you were bigger than me, come on, let's figure it out. Let's have a fight. Let's play football. Let me tackle you. It was just something inside of my brain that all along I just kept getting better. And by the time I hit the Raiders, I was this person that couldn't get enough. I couldn't, football was the only thing to me. And I remember my mother as a kid, she said, you love that game. And I said, yeah, I do, Mom. And she goes, well, did you know you could do that when you grow up? And I'm like, what? Oh, yeah, those guys on TV? They get paid. And I'm like, what? This is crazy.
Wow.
I could do this as a job? Yeah.
This is incredible. So let's move on from there, because I want to get through all of this in the 20-plus minutes we have left. I want to start with the Raider way in your rookie year. You come out of Bowling Green, you get to the Raiders. What are you thinking, knowing where the Raiders were before you got there? Pops Jim Otto, Freddie Bolitnikoff, by the way, wrote your forward. That's incredible. When you got to the Raiders as a rookie, Al Davis, how big of a task was that for you to make the team, to find a role and become an NFL player?
Yeah, it's amazing, JT. I gotta, I still get this fan mail like every day, and this one, and sometimes people put questions in there, and it said, what made you think that you could play for the Oakland Raiders, and when did you think you could start for the Oakland Raiders? And I said, the day before the very first game was the day I thought I could play for the Oakland Raiders and start for the Oakland Raiders. I never, JT, so what I'm trying to say is I was never satisfied, and because I never thought I was good enough, I guess. And I just had to keep proving myself. And how about this, JT? It was Thanksgiving Day, and the Raiders were playing the Detroit Lions, and we were done at Bowling Green. Our season ended about 2 weeks before then. So I was home, and I couldn't wait to watch the Raiders play, of course. And, because they were like my favorite team because of the black and the way they hit and the reputation and Al Davis and John Madden and all that. And they had the coaches were mic'd up on the sideline. Oh. And it was really an experiment. And the opening kickoff, the Raiders kicked. The guys were running down the field, and I'll never forget one of the coaches, "Get that MFer," and he's screaming, and the coaches were screaming. My mother gets up and said, "That team is disgusting," and I'll never forget. There's this thing, you know what hit me? I want to be a Raider. That's all, because they were the nastiest people, and I felt like that was where I belonged. And then, JT, I go to the Senior Bowl game, and I tackled, I get blasted right in the eye on the opening kickoff by this giant guy from, I was the L1, which is the middle guy, going down the field right into the wedge. I was going to hit this guy so hard. He sticks up his elbow right in my eye. So I played the whole game with one eye. And after the game was over, I'll never forget this guy. He had a white suit with white boots and a gold chain, and I'm coming off the field, and you had to go through this private area, and there he was, Al Davis, and I didn't even know who he was, and he said, "Great game, Villapiano." Wow. And I only had one eye for the whole game. I'll never forget Dick McPherson was the linebacker coach. We had the Bronco coaches were coaching us, and I get hit on the opening, like I said, the opening kickoff, and I come off to the sideline, and my eyes just huge, and he goes, "Hey, Phil," and I go, "Yeah, coach." He goes, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." He goes, "We have no backups."
Stay in the game.
Play the whole game. I loved that game. I would love to have a film of the 1971 Senior Bowl, because that was the start of it all. And then 2 weeks after the game was the draft, and the Raiders picked me up, and my mother said, "Is that the disgusting team I hit?" I said, "Yes." Man.
That's the team, Mom. That's the team. Phil Villapiano's our guest. Yeah. When you come to the Raiders, they are going through a chapter in their young career. The franchise was born in 1960. In the early 70s, a team that's playing in some of the biggest games. They lose Super Bowl II. There's legends there. You end up winning Super Bowl 11. I talked to Freddie B about this. If you go from Super Bowl II, where the Raiders lost to Lombardi, to all of the AFC Championship games that you played in with Snake and your teammates, to winning, how'd you keep your head up? Was it coaching? Was it Al Davis, Madden, to say, "Hey, we came up short again. We were better than the team we believe that beat us, and we got to go back to training camp again and do it again"? What was that like?
Yeah, JT, that was the real challenge, and that's where our coaches and owners came in handy. I mean, the guys, there was a good reason, I think, that we got beat every year. And even the Immaculate Reception. I mean, the flukiest play ever, and it's still considered the nuttiest play in pro football. Anyway, so you get beat, and you get pissed, and you can't wait to go back. The next year, you're playing the Dolphins, and they're undefeated, and you get beat in the championship game. And, you kind of make reasons. But I think the biggest and with the greatest job of any coach is when you lose that many championship games, that John Madden could keep us motivated. And I'll never forget, and it's in the book. Every one of these stories is going to be in the book, JT. But John comes to training camp after we get beat by the Steelers in '75. And, that was like the third time in a row for the Steelers. And he goes, guys, we are going to, his whole thing was simplifying our offense and our defense and just kick ass. No more kick ass. And it was the greatest John Madden speech because, we all were kind of wondering, Freddie was there longer than me. Kenny was there longer than me. What's John going to say to make us want it again and go out and get it?
The motivation.
He simplified it, JT. But listen to this. We go and we lose like 3 defensive linemen in the first preseason game. And now we got we don't even have any defensive linemen. He's got to go out and find some people. But Don Shinnick puts in the 3-4 because we had good linebackers. So all of a sudden we switched from the 4-3 to the 3-4, and John made it. Yeah, you guys can do it. And I'll never forget, he made it into this big challenge that only we could do. So he kind of made it fun on a tough situation,
Sure.
And I'll be damned if we didn't play good, too.
Phil Villapiano is our guest. Phil Villapiano, the book is Just Tackle, Baby, Living Life the Raiders Way. I want to get to your tackle in the Super Bowl. Minnesota's going in. You end up winning big. Do you consider that because your tackles against O.J. Simpson and, twisting his neck and his helmet popping off, your biggest tackles in biggest games, is that the biggest tackle of your life in the Super Bowl, considering it led to the momentum that built the victory?
It really, I have to say that, and every time somebody asks me the biggest play in my career, I have to say the goal line tackle and in the Super Bowl. But JT, the reason I made that tackle was because we had Don Shinnick, great coach, Monty Johnson, great middle linebacker. We all were trained to think on our feet really well. And when I saw Monty was facing into the end zone, and I always stood on the end, and I always kept my eye on the bench, the visitors' bench, to see who was coming in. I saw in comes their tackles, and out goes their wide receivers. I said, matzo ball, and I said, jumbo, and he turned around and he saw the guys coming in. He goes, jumbo, pitch. Well, they only had 2 plays. The quarterback sneak and McClanahan up the middle. That's all they ran. We studied that. I knew it. So I got down on Ranieri and I said, you ain't going to touch me. And soon I was right in front of him, right off the ball. And there was McClanahan getting the ball. I stuck my face right in there. The ball came out. Willie Hall recovered it. It was such a beautiful play. And I'd have to say the beauty of the play was the hit, which was good, but it was the studying and that we knew what they were going to do. And when you know what somebody's going to do and you're a pro player, you can cause some havoc.
Yes, and the way you explain that relates to everyone in regards to film prep, studying, understanding what you could do if you're prepared. Very similar to what Clint Kubiak's trying to teach here now. Phil, with about 6 or 7 minutes left, I want to do a little rapid fire here with you, get a few in. When did you gravitate to the media? You win the Super Bowl. You're a guy who can stand in front of microphones. You had the Buffalo career, which is great, and people will dive into that in the book. But when did NFL Films find you and go, oh, my God, This guy's a treasure trove of information from the 70s, and then they just keep you on board, and you're sitting there and you're doing all these appearances with NFL Films. How did that come about?
Yeah, well, I kind of think it was Al Davis, and I think it was NFL Films showing up in Cleveland for the very first, the Raiders' very first Monday night game. And somebody mentioned it. I think it was Al, that they were going to start showing films or shooting films of the games, and we were really getting to be stars at the time. And anyway, so I make all these tackles that night in Cleveland. I went crazy, and Howard Cosell was the guy that discovered Villapiano from Bowling Green, and because I was making all these tackles, and then he says it. NFL Films picks it up. In the off season, they called me, Lazy Boy was giving out chairs to the defensive player of the game. By the time I got done, I had about 8 chairs in my house, all Lazy Boys, all free, which was a wonderful thing. But anyway, it just after that Cleveland Monday night game, NFL Films started liking me. And then they called me down to Cherry Hill, which is in New Jersey, right?
Close.
About an hour from my house. And they brought me down there, and I remember going down there with a tie and jacket on way back when. And then one thing led to another, and then they called me. And one of my best, JT, if we got one more minute, was during COVID when they called me up and they said, Phil, we're thinking about doing a little something. Can we come to your house? Because I guess you couldn't go in the office. So anyway, they come to my house, and the Raiders had just gone to Vegas, and they said to me, "Hey Phil, no." I said to them, "Well, what are we going to talk about today?" Because they never told me anything. And they said, "We'll talk about you." And I said, "We're not going to talk about the Raiders going to Vegas? No, we're going to talk about you." And then, JT, we did it, and they got so many compliments. It was called Raider Royalty, if anybody wants to check it out on YouTube or something. Raider Royalty became big, and then Todd Schmidt, who's been there forever, is my buddy, and he calls me up and says, "So, would you ever think about doing a book?" And I said, "Todd, not really. I'm still working, but I'm thinking about retiring in January. Why don't we talk about it then?" So in January, he called me up, and then we decided to do it. And I'm really happy we did it. But, JT, it was work, as you know. You did it, so it's work. But it's fun work. I'm glad I couldn't believe just, 2 weeks ago, somehow or another, my daughter gets notified that the book is done by somebody, and all of a sudden it went crazy. So all these pre-orders are coming in. It's a lot of fun. Just Tackle Baby. I had to put Al Davis in there because he was my buddy, use his language a little bit. And I just hope everybody likes it.
They're going to love it.
I think they will.
Phil, I will send everybody to Amazon, all the major book outlets, to buy the book, Just Tackle Baby, Living Life the Raiders Way. Every summer I do a summer series with the Raiders before training camp, and I try to get everybody on, and I wanted you to be first. I'm going to be interviewing maybe 8 or 10 former teammates of yours or alumni who came after you about their greatest moments as a Raider. I'm happy you went first because you got so many, you wrote a book about it. I just couldn't talk about one thing with you. So, hey, congratulations. I know you're going to be on the road with this. Every Raider fan should buy this book for 2 reasons. You learn more about this passionate fan base, but secondly, it connects with you on your life. And I think your life, we've been friends for a long time. You've been great to me and my family. Your story is one of the greatest stories I've ever seen in the history of the Raiders in the NFL. I'm proud to call you a friend, and I'll do anything for you whenever you need me.
Well, thank you, JT. You always have, and you keep the excitement, even though we've had all these ugly years. But, JT, you kept the faith, and now we got a coach, and now we got a quarterback, and who knows? We even got a running back last year that nobody even knows about. I can't wait. And we got defensive players. Oh, I can't wait for this season. I can't wait to come out there for Alumni Weekend and take a look at these monsters.
Thank you, Phil. I'll talk to you soon. You're the best. Have a great rest of the summer.
JT, thank you very much. It's been beautiful.
Thank you. Phil Villapiano. Hope you enjoyed that. Guy, again, this is about him. But I just want to say, for me, the opportunities I've had in my life with this organization, it's been life-changing. To build friendships and relationships with guys like that, it just, I pinch myself and say, wow, it's fantastic. And go buy his book. I say every time, sign up for my YouTube channel. You do or you don't. Hey, download my podcast. You do or you don't. Hey, buy his book, please. Please buy Phil's book. It matters. That's how you write books and make money, and it gets on lists and all that. Just Tackle Baby. Pre-order it at Amazon. It'll pop right up there. Maybe he'll even sign it for you, because let me tell you what he signed for me, and I'm showing it to our bricklayers here on YouTube. He said, JT, thanks for keeping the legend of Foo alive, buddy. Love you, Phil. And this will go right up on my shelf after I read it. Read it this summer, and I can't wait to tell you more about that. Thanks to Phil Villapiano. Coming up next, Hacksaw. Ooh, watch out. Hacksaw's a legend, and he doesn't like the Raiders. He's never really liked the Raiders, but he's so good as a guest, I put him on there. No, I'm not even going to say he doesn't like the Raiders. He's honest about the Raiders. And, he doesn't work for the Raiders like I do, so I go, ooh, what's he going to say? I'm going to ask him about Mendoza. I'm going to ask him about Kubiak. He's kind of Charger-friendly. He was the voice of the Chargers, what Harbaugh's doing. So you want to stick around for that coming up in a few minutes. And then dial in, and if you call in, I'll take your call. 702-365-9200. Rory McIlroy on top of the U.S. Open leaderboard at 2 under. And sound from my Knicks parade. I got up today with my wife, and I watched the Knicks parade. My life is complete. I watched my Knicks in the Canyon of Heroes today. I've been dreaming about that my whole life.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by The Black Hole. Become a member of football's most notorious fans.
They run it again with Genty, patient behind the line. Bounces out to the left at the 40, into the secondary 30. Nobody's going to catch him. Down the middle of the field, Genty at the 5. Touchdown, Raiders! Deuces, goodbye for the second time in the ballgame. This one from 51 yards. And with 5:24 to go, the Raiders on the back of the 6th overall pick. Not done yet.
It's Jason Horowitz, the voice of the Raiders. Ashton Genty, there's some picture going viral with him where he had his shirt off after a workout and he looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime. I don't know what he's doing in the weight room, but I looked at that picture and said, is that AI? Is that AI or is it real? We'll get Lee Hacksaw Hamilton up here in a moment. The legendary Southern California sports talk host. That's what we're going to do this summer. I'm going to be talking to a lot of sports talk radio hosts and guests and Raider alumni. A little clue on what I'm working on here in the summer as we, summer we have a little bit of a lighter schedule before we ramp it up. But what I'll do is some extensive interviews like we did with Phil. We did about 20, 25 minutes with Phil. And I'll be reaching out to other legends and alumni about their greatest moment as a Raider. I'm looking forward to doing that this summer and jumping in on that. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton is one of the most successful sports talk hosts of all time. He's had a big impact on my career, my monologue, the way I prep for the show. And Lee, great to talk to you. I want to begin with the World Cup. I'm assuming you love it because of the passion that the world is seeing as they're coming here to the United States to all these NFL venues. How are you watching this and how are you talking about it?
JT, nice to chat with you. Full disclosure before we deal with the topics on the table. Are you going to do full public confession? You are a New York Knicks fan.
Yes.
I am surprised you came to work today. I thought you would have been in Times Square hooting, hollering, wearing blue and orange. That was pretty cool. And the first thing that after that happened, I thought of you.
Well, thank you, Lee. And last week I got a chance to see my 88-year-old dad. I was up in the Finger Lakes at Geneseo, Canandaigua, New Paltz, Long Island. So I was back there for the vibe of it. But thank you. I watched the parade, all of it today. And Lee, it's an interesting topic because I'll go this way with droughts. Teams that have droughts and the fans that wait for the drought to end really deserve it because they didn't jump off. And the Chargers have been waiting for a Super Bowl. The Padres are the team that jumps out that you cover brilliantly, that the fans still hang in there looking for a moment like the Knicks just had.
Yeah, very much so. And we should also have full disclosure that you're a refugee from, was it Massapequa, New York?
Massapequa, yes.
And I was deported from Northport, Long Island.
Yes.
Now, I was not a Knicks fan, but I'll tell you, it was so cool. And I just think the variables that made the Knicks what they were, Mike Brown, head coach, Leon Rose, president, general manager, and Jalen Brunson, superstar, those guys deserve all the credit for bringing this where it had not been forever and ever. I mean, the Patrick Ewing era was so long ago. The Willis Reed era was even beyond that. And before that was Clyde Frazier and Earl the Pearl. I mean, there's such legacy to the Garden, and we went to games there as kids and all that. But, boy, it's been a long time coming. So it was so cool to see the parade today. And what an unbelievable series it was. And for them to win 3 times in San Antonio, wow, period, exclamation point. Now, whether or not they can run it back, whether this could be a dynasty, I don't know. The salary cap has a lot of different implications to it, but that was a real special moment for everybody in the Big Apple.
Yeah,
okay.
Lee Hacksaw Hamilton joins us. They don't look like a dynasty to me, and I'm a diehard. As you know, the last 7 championships have been one team winning and not going back-to-back. But let me ask you this, because they're not a dynasty, so you can't compare them to Russell or Bird and Magic or even Shaq and Kobe, and then you look at some of the Duncan dynasties or the Steph Curry, the most recent. Where do you rank the Knicks as a one-team champion, considering they have the largest differential ever at 283 in the postseason, and their 29-point comeback, and the magnitude of some of the wins, the Anunoby tip-in, could they be on the Mount Rushmore all-time of NBA teams that have won one?
Well, it's hard to go back in that type of history and try to remember who did it one time and say, "Wow." Let's just cap it by saying NBA champions. Period, exclamation point. Don't have to compare them to anybody else. We honor and we salute this accomplishment. God, if you and I were doing sports talk radio in New York City, do you think we'd be going crazy? No, it's great accomplishment. Yeah. And as I named, those people are directly responsible for why this thing arrived the way it did arrive, even if it's only a one and done. Okay, on we go.
Yeah, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton's our guest. I just had Phil Villapiano on. He had a new book out, and since I met you and I was calling into your show, and the Raiders went to one Super Bowl 37, and lost to John Gruden in Tampa Bay, the Raiders have been on this ride, and the last 20 years have been really rough. But they get Mendoza. And Mendoza, when I was out there at minicamp, he just looks different. He's a gentleman. He's quiet. He's not brash. They have Bowers and Genty, and then they got Tyler Linderbaum. I'm not saying they're a playoff team this year, but that looks like a core, Lee, a core of young players on initial contracts outside of Linderbaum that the Raiders can build around and possibly turn the corner. How do you see it?
I buy a piece of that equation, and of course the intangible is Kirk Cousins and all of his history. And I think as a leader and as a guy who can get it down the field and a guy that's played an awful lot of football and seen everything in the world, we're not talking about some vagabond backup. We're talking about proven commodity. Mm-hmm. And, circle all the names in that starting offensive unit who've got really good experience, have talent. So I think offensive side of the football, they're going to be really fun to watch. Now, the flip side, they spent an enormous amount of money to rent guys on defense. I don't know how many of these guys are standouts on defense. Yes, they played, but were they elite at their position? And they committed an awful lot of contracts in terms of contracts to get these guys here to make it more competitive. Could they be a borderline playoff team? Sure. Injuries change the face of everybody in the National Football League. If things fall right, if they stay healthy, and Cousins has a 3,500-yard season, and Ashton Genty is what Ashton Genty likely is going to turn out to be, a real stud in this league, yeah, they're going to be really, really good. But only time will tell. Let's just get to the 1st of September healthy. And in terms of Mendoza, project down road, but boy, he's an intellect, and the kid's big, and the kid's physical, and the kid has no fear, and all you need to do is look at the resume of the people he beat the last couple of years when he was a quarterback. First, obviously at Cal, what he accomplished at Indiana. So he's got a lot of positives already that he's accomplished in his career. So I think things are better for the Raiders, and they got to be better because look at the division they're in with Justin Herbert and Mike McCarthy with the Chargers, the reinvention of what Kansas City is going to be, and I really firmly believe the persona of chief football with Bieniemy coming back in the front door is going to be really, really different under Andy Reid. And then obviously Denver taking another step forward with a quarterback and what they've added with the icon Sean Payton. So the division is just going to be superb. Raiders will be good, but they're in a tough division too.
Hacksaw's our guest as we wrap it up. For all your years covering the NFL and being a play-by-play voice for multiple teams, historically the number one pick overall starts. You don't groom him, you put him in. And it could be John Elway getting benched after his 6th game. It could be Peyton Manning breaking the rookie interception record. But they played because that year mattered in their growth going into year 2 or 3. How concerned should Raider Nation be that it might not be till week 8 or 9 or 11 if Mendoza doesn't play? And that means kind of year 1 is in the past and got to start it over again year 2.
No, I totally disagree.
Okay.
At the end of the day, there's the learning curve, there's the meetings, there's the weight room, there's diet, there's the give and take in the quarterback room. There's the whole process off the field is really important. You can throw him on the field, but you don't want to get him killed. AKA, and I know you're close to Jim Plunkett, look what happened to his career when he was force-fed in New England back in the day, and he never, ever recovered from it. And so many other good, young, hot quarterbacks have shown up, played, and gotten battered and struggled. Yeah, some of them come out of it. Troy Aikman was 1-15 his rookie year in the horrors of Dallas. But at the end of the day, this is a unique one-year rental. Maybe it's even longer with Kirk Cousins. That's proven commodity. Get the franchise back on its feet. This kid goes through the learning curve. Maybe he gets a chance to play. We'll just have to see how the season goes out. But you're not force-feeding him and getting him battered along the way. And I think that's the negative, JT. If you go back and look at all the number 1 draft pick quarterbacks just so in the last 5 years, how many of them have just staggered, struggled, and have never really found themselves yet? It takes time.
All right. I wanted to end with this as I talk to you and the impact that you've had on radio and my career and others. You've mentored others along the way. We're now in a time where what you and I do, we're like the last of the Mohicans. There's no more solo hosts. And I'm not saying, look, if you want to pair me up here and it works financially for my station or others, I like to do my own show. I don't like to be interrupted. I don't need 6 guys talking behind the glass, a producer interrupting me, wanting to speak to get their own show. I started on overnights. I started the hard way, overnights, until I improved and got better opportunities. You were always a solo host. What's changing as you turn on the TV and you're seeing 5, 8 people talking at the same time, people trying to find their way into media on the other side of the glass or wearing costumes or acting a certain way? I'd love your thoughts on that.
Well, it's a very different landscape right now. Every quality talk show host that I know is no longer on the air. We're all doing different things. I do 2 podcasts a week. I have my website. I'm doing weekend TV, sports analyst work. So it's all different. Unfortunately, corporate has taken over. Corporate has become bottom line. Corporate does not want to invest what is a very expensive format to be in. If you're going to do it right, that means talent. If you're going to do it right, that means producers. That means outside reporters. It's not being done that way. So the whole landscape of just sports talk radio has drastically changed. Is it better? Well, I just have my own opinion that it's not. But again, we all worked at it very differently. I flip on my TV right now. I'm watching CNN, and we got 5 people on a round table talking over each other about whatever the hot topic of the day is. Mm-hmm. How am I supposed to disseminate the noise that they're creating? And that's what sports talk radio is, a lot of noise. I think the other piece of the equation is guys can stand up and scream and sound off, and a lot of sports talk radio and a lot of markets is. But a lot of these guys don't go into locker rooms, don't go into clubhouses. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to say things for the sake of saying things, well, you need to stand in front of the player that you talked about and take whatever heat you're going to take if you said something that was way off base or far or a cheap shot. I don't see a hell of a lot of that going on. So, again, there's some accountability of the stuff, I call it noise, that's on the air and the guys that are creating noise on the air. If I were king, I'd do it differently, but hey, I had a great run. You've had a great run. We earned it. We worked it. It's just a very, very different landscape that we have right now.
It's LeeHacksawHamilton.com. The website's great. It's always updated. The headlines, one man's opinion. Lee, we'll talk to you later on this summer. I always appreciate you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Be well. Talk to you again.
You got it. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Wow, that was a great 45 minutes of radio, and I had nothing to do with it. That was Phil Villapiano for 25 minutes and Hacksaw for 15 minutes. They were fantastic. I hope you enjoyed that. Those type of conversations I really appreciate. It's not get off the lawn. We got a great radio conglomerate out here, Lotus Broadcasting. We got a bunch of stations, right? So we got reporters in the locker room. We got hosts, program directors. We run a pretty tight ship around here, which is well done. It takes a lot. We got to get advertising coming in. We're doing a lot of different things. But Lee made a good point. There's not many radio stations anymore or networks committing to sports talk radio. They're not. They're just saying, no, we don't need producers. We don't need this. We don't need great things. Fortunately, I work at a place that cares. But I mentor a lot of young people who reach out to me and say, hey, I followed your career. Can you help me? I call every one of them back because that's what Mike North did with me and Hacksaw did with me and Jim Rome did with me a bit. You want to help people come up behind you, but I can't. People ask me all the time, Colin, how do I get into radio? And I'm like, you can't. You can't anymore the way I did. What I did was you get hired by a station, you cut some tape, you do something, then you keep badgering the program director to put you on the air at night when no one's listening, right? You get all your reps in, and then one day someone quits or gets fired and you get a chance. Now you turn on the TV and people are wearing costumes and growing their hair funny and screaming behind the glass and they have a microphone. And that's how people are getting on the radio now. They are on shows where they're the fifth, sixth wheel and they're hoping that someone sees them and thinks they're funny, not good, funny, and will give them a chance. So I tell everybody, man, the best way to get on radio, the best way to start is YouTube. The best way to start right now is to get yourself a YouTube channel. You don't need a lot. You don't need a lot of people. And just get reps in. Do that. We have Wasted Talent that comes on. He's unbelievable. He's going to be on with us as long as I have a show, right? You start building, you build, and then all of a sudden you might get a break. Man, Scottie Scheffler he's pissed off. Every time he takes a shot and misses, he's looking at his caddy. No, Scottie, the caddy didn't hit that shot. You did. He missed a putt, and he just looked at his caddy like his caddy read the putt wrong. Shinnecock is brutal. I've been out there multiple times. Scottie is 2 over. If he can get in at 1 over or even par, that would be great. Rory McIlroy is 2 under. All right, we are brought to you by Modelo, the fighting spirit of Modelo. Last night, I had about 2 or 3 couples over my house. True story. 10 o'clock at night. We're all in the pool. Some of the wives were drinking some of these kind of unique drinks. I'm in a raft drinking a Modelo. I'm drinking a Modelo in my backyard. I back it up. Backyard brick. There's Modelos right there. So we love Modelo and the fighting spirit. And we got a couple of announcements coming up with Modelo. And 2 new partners that were mentioned in this week. And I'll tell you about one on the other side. When we come back, we'll wrap up this hour. And then I have a really good athlete coming in studio live. Hagen Smith, AVP professional beach volleyball player. Plays for the LA Launch in the AVP League. And they're here Friday and Saturday at Resorts World. We'll tell you about that coming up in about 10 minutes.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by Modelo Especial, the new #1 beer in the U.S.
There's a lot of people that have a lot of negative stuff to say. There's a lot of people who have a lot of opinions. But when you prove them wrong, you really don't have to say to them.
Yeah, it's Jalen Brunson today taking a swipe at all the people that kind of didn't believe in him or didn't believe in the Knicks. JT, back with you. We're brought to you by Aspen Vodka. If you tried Aspen Vodka yet, you're going to pretty soon. You should. They're the official vodka, the one, of the Raiders, of the Las Vegas Raiders and the New York Yankees. Pretty good fit for me, huh? Which is pretty good here. So we welcome Aspen Vodka. We got another one to welcome tomorrow on the same team here, but we're really proud when we can bring in new partnerships here and very excited about the opportunity that we have with Aspen Vodka going forward. So the Knicks had their parade today. The mayor, the new mayor, Mondavi, I thought did a really nice job. Did a nice job. I don't talk politics on the show. I don't care who you think I like or you like or who's the mayor of L.A. or New York. Today was a big parade. I think what's going to happen, and I could be wrong on this, but they're going to go back and look at this parade and say it wasn't good because too many people were there. I don't know what the number's going to be at. They're going to find a way to give us a number. Is it going to be 1 million, 2 or 4 million? Well, everyone in New York's going to say they went. I went. Well, where were you? Oh, I was there. Well, no, you weren't. You got City Hall? Were you down on Wall Street? Where were you? But I got up early today to watch this because my nephew was there, and my nephew was there taking video. My nephew is 6'7". He's 6'7". What a day to be 6'7". He stood on the streets in New York, but everything's coming by him, and he's got his camera phone up there above everybody. So maybe I'll share a couple of his videos, and he had a great time. But a lot of people couldn't get in. So people got to downtown Manhattan at 7 in the morning, and they said, no, you can't go down to where the parade's going to be because we've run out of space. Wow. So that's a big security threat, too. I mean, to bring that many people in off trains from all over, coming in there and trying to sneak in, and you got to check bags and backpacks and wonder who's down there. I mean, that is a tough thing to pull off, man. Just like, I guess, we're pulling off a 4th of July here, one of the biggest 4th of July fireworks shows in the history of Las Vegas, right? And the Metro cops here in this town do such a wonderful job of trying to keep everybody safe. So I don't know of all the stories today. I hope everybody was safe and had a good time today. But, man, there were a lot of people trying to get to New York City today that just couldn't do it. All right, we're going to talk to Hagen Smith coming up a little bit later. He's an AVP professional beach volleyball player. They're at Resorts World. I would assume there's going to be a lot of good-looking people there. And he's coming in right now. So when we come back, we'll talk to him on the other side, and we'll find out what's going on with him. And maybe you can get out to Resorts World and check out some beach volleyball at Resorts World. I think it's probably going to be great. We'll talk to an athlete whose father was one of the greatest icons in the history of the sport, too. Should be a fun interview.
It's the JT the Brick Show.
This is the silver and black. This is the Raiders. This is a historic franchise. This is no ordinary job.
Your silver and black home to sound off for over 25 years.
I don't care if I offend somebody. If it isn't right, I'm going to stop practice. We're going to do it the right way.
And now, here's JT the Brick.
All right, we are back. Hour number 2. Hour number 1 was fabulous. If you didn't catch it, Phil Villapiano, the Raider legend, with his new book, Just Tackle Baby. And Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, one of my favorite sports talk hosts. Wow, did he have a lot to say. I am excited this weekend. We've been partners with Resorts World for quite some time. The world's best professional beach volleyball players return to the Las Vegas Strip as the Association of Volleyball Professionals, that's AVP, you know it, the premier professional beach volleyball league in the world, continues their league season at Resorts World in Las Vegas, and we get the pleasure of having Hagen Smith in studio. Thanks for coming in, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
This is a great story because I want to begin with your dad, and everybody likes talking about their dad. My dad's a Knicks fan. He's 88. I saw him.
Oh, congrats to him.
Yeah, thank you. When I grew up watching beach volleyball, living in San Diego, and then turning on the TV, and to see the way your dad dominated, that obviously had a massive influence in your life getting into the sport. But what did he teach you about being a young man and an athlete?
No, I mean, from my first memories, I've always been around volleyball and seeing how my dad was super influential in the sport and then how he handled himself on and off the court. Because I remember towards the end of his career where he wasn't necessarily doing as well, but as an ambassador for the sport, he was still the top guy. And, anything and everything I've done in volleyball or learned in volleyball has been because of him and as a guiding light for me.
So when he was in his absolute prime, you were about how old, trying to go to as many of his matches as possible, traveling? What was that like, or was more of a local scene for you?
I wasn't necessarily a thought when he was at his prime.
Right. Okay.
Maybe a plan down the line.
Right.
But what I got to see, or what I was around for, was his Olympic push in 96 was the first time that beach volleyball was in the Olympics, and he was a big proponent of getting it onto the international stage and getting it into the Olympics. And he was a little bit later in his career, and he had to grab a guy that wasn't necessarily a dominant twos player. He actually, on the day I was born, got a call from his partner that he thought he was going to do the Olympic qualifying with. So he gets home from the hospital, checks his answering machine, and has about 4 hours to try to find a partner for his Olympic run. He's going to Europe for about 2-3 months. Goes down the Rolodex, finds a guy. They do well enough. They dominate the European tour, and they qualify for the 96 Olympics.
Amazing story. We're talking to Hagen Smith. He's here for AVP, professional beach volleyball over at Resorts World. A lot of young athletes get burnt out if they're in a sport that their dad was in and they kind of shy away. Before we came on, we talked about your passion for surfing. Was there a point when you were young, from 10 to 15 years old, where you're playing and you're saying, I want to be like my dad? Or did you have a point where you said, I wanted to be something else and try something new?
It was actually him who was trying to get me into do something else, and we burned some. I burned out of that. He was pushing me towards tennis because there was a tennis center in the Palisades where we grew up. I was on par with a lot of the top guys. There's still some guys and gals that are playing professional now that I was in the mix with. And he saw the writing on the wall. If you were comparing where tennis is as a sport right now versus beach volleyball, there's quite a bit more money in tennis. So he said, you have the skills. If you're going to be an athlete, which he thought I was going to be just because of where I was as a kid, he's like, go play tennis. And I just wanted to be like him. I was like, I don't want to play tennis. I want to be like you. I want to play beach volleyball. I want to travel the world and do it the same way you did it. So
tell us about now being a professional and what this is like with your fitness, your training, your goals. What are your individual goals and your team goals at this stage of your career?
Right now, the biggest goal is that LA 2028.
Sure.
You know, we're coming up into the qualifying series, which starts kind of into 26, but mainly beginning of 27, and will go for about a year and a half up until the Olympics. And, you know, it's LA. This is where I grew up.
Right.
This is the backyard. This is if you can say, like, Olympic dream is obviously an amazing dream. Plus, it being at home is just, it's icing on the cake, right?
We're going to Resorts World. I'll be out there. I'll see you out there. How cool is it now where the sport goes from the beach to a city that doesn't have a beach but has a lot of beach resorts and pool parties? I mean, I know you've seen this at your age. You're seeing these new day clubs and these resorts and what they're doing here in Vegas. Does that get you a little bit more fired up coming to Sin City in Vegas with the nightlife and the parties and what you're seeing behind you here as you're competing as an athlete?
Since I came to Vegas for the first time to one of those day clubs, I've always wanted to hold a tournament right next to all the action.
Right.
So we're close. We're not exactly at, Omnia Beach Club or with one of the spots. But I'm excited to mix in the beach volleyball lifestyle because it's a lifestyle that's hard to beat in any other sport. When people come down to our beaches or to wherever we have our tournaments, you understand the hype around our sport and why it's so much fun to watch and play.
Hagen Smith is our guest. Who are your top competitors? Do you have rivalries in sports radio? And everybody should be watching this on our YouTube feed at JT the Brick. And to see this young man, when you, in all the sports, the Knicks had bad blood with Wembanyama, right? You see in hockey, the Golden Knights get beat. There's a fight from time to time. With you, growing up with a lot of the competitors that you're competing against, does it get to the point where you go out afterwards, or is it separate when you know you have a match the next day? What's it like being on tour?
You know, you travel the world and around the country with the same guys.
Yeah.
So you're going to bump elbows. Ideally, you're able to leave the competitiveness on the court, but sometimes it'll bleed out across that. So there's some guys that I've gone up and down with, depending. You know, partnerships that were supposed to happen, and then phone calls where it's like, I don't want to play with you anymore. I've been stranded in Indonesia when we were supposed to have a tournament in the Philippines the next week because, you know, someone rolled an ankle, and then I see on social media the next week that they're jumping and they look fine. So, you know, there's always tensions, and ideally you put those aside. But first and foremost, I'm a competitor, so I'm not going to let just because I want to be nice to a guy.
I was dying to ask you that, because for you to get to the ultimate goal as you're playing with a partner, I would assume that's essential, right? Guys want to play with you. They know how good you are, but you might have a partner or see someone else that's up and coming. How competitive is that world? Are there agents? Are there people trying to pair people up in the off season? Like, what are some of the issues you have to deal with as you look out to 2028 with the current partner you have, your training, and where you want your goals to be?
I liken it to dating, basically. You have to go into the relationship. Hey, this is why I'm good. This is why you're good. This is why I think we'll be a good match. And sometimes on paper it looks great and it should work, and then you get on the court and you just don't mesh. And then other times, you know, when I first qualified for the AVP, I was playing with a guy who was just happened to be in town. There was a qualifying series to get into this one tournament. He was the best option. I never thought I'd go far with him. And we actually did super well. We got last seed into that first tournament in Hermosa, and we beat the top two seeds, or the top seed, and then we won our next game against the fifth seed and actually did a decent little run. So you never know exactly what's going to work out. But it's at the end of the day, it's on us solely as the individual to go out and find partners. Right now, USA is doing a little bit of reorganizing to try to potentially put teams together who they think is best. But with beach volleyball, it's so hard to know unless you have tournaments under your belt. See how you travel together. See how if you can handle the how difficult going across the world is. You know, I was in Germany a week ago, and now I'm back in Vegas, and then we'll bop over to China in 2 weeks, and then LA. Yeah, so
going to China to play volleyball, it's got to be so cool.
It's a whole new experience. You think we have big cities, that's not even like a tier 3 city for them. It's unbelievable how giant they've expanded.
Hagen Smith is our guest as we wrap it up, AVP professional beach volleyball player. And I was looking at my notes, 300 tons of sand will be chucked into the back lot of Resorts World to build the court that's out there. You can go to avp.com/tickets. General admission at just $35 to get on that footprint of Resorts World and see this. That is probably the best value in Vegas, where it costs hundreds on bottle service in some of these clubs or thousands of dollars, and this is going to give you the feel of that. As I was looking online and doing some homework on you, and I went to your Instagram feed with your serve, is that what you're kind of known for, your serve at times, and how fast it is? And how do you train for that? How do you get to a point where you're peaking in a match and you know you're just dialed in with your serve?
Yeah, it's just hours and hours of training. My dad had a similar serve, but he didn't have quite the build that I have, where I can create a little more torque from a rather not a big run up. And you know, I like to play into the crowd and feel the momentum. And so you'll see me on an outer court and I'm doing all right, but if you see me on a center court like we'll have in Vegas, I will just be in my element more so than ever. And I like to engage the crowd as much as possible, play with the music, and then let that translate into my game.
Can't wait to see this. Finally, I wanted to ask about weather. So wind, slight wind. We're watching golf, you and I, right here at the U.S. Open. They went out early this morning. It was 45 miles an hour. No one could hit a green. They were hitting the green. Balls were rolling off. And it's just brutal. You could see the wind that's here. What about slight wind outside? When do you get concerned when rain's coming in playing or you see something coming towards the beach and you're playing, take our audience behind the scenes, because I don't think a lot of people think of that element when they're playing that sport as a fan.
No, more so than I think any other sport, beach volleyball has to deal with the elements. Like, in every place we play is different. Like, the last event for the AVP League was in Aspen, so you have to deal with the elevation. The ball travels differently. The event prior to that was in Belmar, New Jersey, and we had winds, 30 knot gusts, where it looks different than a normal volleyball game, but whoever can adapt to that the best of their ability will win. In situations like that, my serve is rather a good weapon because it's compact. I can get on it fast, and then the wind will create the ball or have the ball just do. Frankly, I don't know how it works, but I just get it over there and let it do its thing. But with heat like this, it's going to be a game of attrition, right? It's who can put their best foot forward, who can battle into those last couple points in each set and still play at a high level.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, Hagen Smith, about your business prowess and what you want to do as a businessman. You're an athlete. You got so much going for you, but with the background of your dad, sponsorships, apparel, what is that world like with you? Who's guiding you down that world as a businessman? Because obviously you're doing this to make money and be a legend at it. What is that world like financially in the sport, from the payouts to winning, and what you want to do with your investments and your branding, most importantly?
Yeah, right now it's definitely more of a passion sport than a money-gaining sport, and I'm always looking towards the future. I know right now, in these next 2 years, it's super important to have my eyes on 2028 Olympics. But when I have some free time, I'm thinking, okay, how can I continue either in the sport of volleyball or outside of it? And my dad has gone into camps and clinics. He's got a bunch up and down the Southern California coast. He's traveled. I've done this as well. We've traveled around the country, hopping in clinics to, grow the game. And so I've slowly been stepping into some bigger roles with him there. And, I love beach volleyball. I'll be around it forever.
I have a feeling, and I'm pretty good at predicting some stuff, that travel in your world is going to have a lot to do with this. As we were talking about you surfing and bringing your board and to be chasing waves and to do all this, you're learning a lot about getting on airplanes, business, lack of sleep, getting some waves, training, getting your body fit, and all of that. I think that would be an interesting story as you're on Instagram, HAGGEUS, and I'm going to retweet that out and put that out there. Do you want to tell more and more people about your story and your vision at this time? Because social media can be private, but do you feel like a lot of your fans want to know what you're doing with your lifestyle behind the scenes?
I think so, and I've been trying to branch out a little bit. It's funny, this day and age as an athlete, you can't just be an athlete anymore. You also have to be pretty heavy on social media. So I'm looking to have a little extra help there. And I have, I have the stories, I have the content. I just need to continue to push it out and let people see what it takes to be that, what it is to be me, and then how I make that work as a traveling beach volleyball athlete.
This is great. I'll share everything. Thanks for coming in studio. I like these relationships because I know you're going to go on to do great things. I'll see you out there at Resorts World. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
How about that, everybody? Hagen Smith. When we come back on the other side, we'll dive right back in. I got a couple of things to say about the U.S. Open World Cup. There's a lot of news with World Cup. The greatest goal scorers in the world, other than Ronaldo, have scored. Mbappe. Messi had a hat trick, right? Harry Kane, my friend. I met Harry Kane, the captain of England. 2 goals. I'll get you up, set up with the grid, some of the games as I'm going next week. Live from Vegas, home of AVP at Resorts World. JT, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by the Black Hole. Become a member of football's most notorious fans.
Shotgun snap. He's looking down the middle. There's some pressure. He's gobbled up and sacked again. Crosby cleaned up the hit. Laulu first through. Herbert tried to sneak up the middle. And Crosby with his second half sack of the ball game, his second sack today.
Jason Horowitz on the call. How about that? Wow. I was telling Colin, who's here running the show this week for Clay, it's a little bit of a dilemma for me. I want to play all the highlights, but we didn't have a lot of highlights last year. We didn't. And some of them are Geno Smith. And I'm not running away from Geno Smith. I like Geno. I'm not running away from his highlights, but there weren't many. So when you hear a Brock Bowers touchdown, we call that a rejoin, right? We come back with a rejoin. There's not a lot. So I like to rather play Stabler, right, or Derek Carr, or some of the other ones, and we'll do a little bit more of that until the Raiders turn this around. Thanks to Hagen Smith again. So that guy's not going to have a problem being a professional male model. I mean, the women in this building. I noticed when I went to the break room, there was like 6 other people there, male and female, taking a look like, who is that guy? That guy's going to have no problem succeeding in life, I have a feeling.
No, he looks almost, for anybody who didn't get to see the stream, he's almost this uncanny version of Trevor Lawrence, but he looks a little bit bigger. You could tell he's in the weight room, and he's got a lot of that athleticism from being able to jump. But yeah, I think we saw a couple girls' heads turn when he was walking through.
He's not going to have a tough time in life, whatever he's doing. You know, when I interview people like that, I don't know if they're dating, if they have a wife or a girlfriend. I don't dive down that road, but that guy's not going to get cheated. I can promise you there. So AVP, that'll be at Resorts World if you want to go. We have so much happening in Vegas, right? There's so much going on in Vegas that if we didn't have that interview, you might not have known about it. Right? That's how much is going on in Vegas. All of these pools and all of these, casino properties are having activations. And for Resorts World to have AVP, that's pretty cool. I have open lines. I should never have an open line ever. If you have the opportunity to call me after 30 years on sports with the Knicks parade, the Golden Knights hiring a new head coach, what we're seeing with the U.S. Open, take advantage of the format, 702-365-9200. Yesterday, someone clipped something that I said. So my son, and by the way, let's do that again. Happy birthday to my son today. My son Jason's 23 years old. I couldn't be more proud of him. He's the best of the best. Both my sons, I always talk about them on the show. They're both involved in the live stream. They both have really cool careers that they're starting. So tonight, my son, and we're all going out to a nice dinner on the Strip. I'll talk about that tomorrow. But we have a really nice night lined up as my son turns 23 today. And he grew up die hard in the Oakland Coliseum when he was 3 years old. Chris in West Oakland, go around the block, Big D, who's there, all Raider Nation. Violator was holding him up when he was 4 years old. So Raider fan, yeah. My sons are Raider fans. My youngest son is always donned in Raider gear if you see him at the Torch. 702-365-9200. So I told you what happened yesterday is I've been berated by Kansas City Chief fans, and they're talking about me on sports radio shows and all of this because I put out a tweet that showed the Argentina fan base after the game that they played at Arrowhead Stadium, and they were in the concourse because it's an old stadium if you've ever been to Arrowhead. I think I've been to Arrowhead 3 or 4 times. And what happened was I took the video of all the Argentina fans with their flags, and I basically said, look at this. This is great. It's incredible to see this, and you don't see this at a Kansas City Chiefs game. So here's the actual tweet. Okay, this is from 1 day ago. This doesn't happen at Kansas City Chief games inside Arrowhead Stadium, proving my point that soccer fans are just better and different. So now we are up to, let me double check here, because this thing is getting, it's gone more than viral. So 680,000 views, 324 comments. And probably out of the 324 comments, 300 are personally aggressive at me. I mean, personally nasty. Okay? Even Raider fans who have been nasty, I go right back at you. Right back at you. Okay? If you're going to be cowardly and attack me anonymously, I go right back at you. But I'm growing now. I'm trying to avoid that for a number of reasons. But these Kansas City fans, so they're making me a topic on radio today in Kansas City, calling me a clown and what have I ever done? You're a Jim Rome wannabe. Your career ended 10 years ago. No, my career's never been bigger and better. So I am going to war with these Chief fans. So then my son told me that someone else put out a nice video about some of the content that we had yesterday that I thought was really important about Fernando Mendoza. And basically it was about how I said the tide will turn. the tide will turn in the Chiefs' rivalry because of Fernando Mendoza. Now, I could have included Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty and all that, but a gentleman that I'm looking at here by the name of Farzin, Farzin, and he has a nice following on Instagram. He quote tweeted the show yesterday on Instagram. He said, "This is what I said yesterday if you missed the show. Kansas City will see the birth of Fernando Mendoza. Fernando Mendoza will go into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs. I don't know if it'll be this year, no idea, or if it'll be 2 years from now. But I can promise you that Fernando Mendoza, Brock Bowers, and Ashton Genty will consistently go into Kansas City, into Arrowhead, and beat the Chiefs." That was my only way to fight back. All right, I'm not going to fight back personally with every single person that's coming after me. And I'm sincere about everything I said. I might stir the pot for excitement, but I don't make stuff up. I'm not sitting here trying to be clickbait. And I mean what I said. The Raiders now, because Kansas City had a bad year last year and they're getting old, but they're still better than the Raiders. The record proves it. This tide's turning, man. It's turning right now because of Fernando Mendoza. Let it be known throughout Raider Nation that we in Raider Nation have a quarterback that can bring us to multiple Super Bowls down the road and lead us into any atmosphere and win. I don't know what Mendoza's path is going to look like. I don't know if it's going to be, hey, man, he's only going to play 3 games this year. He's going to play 9. But once he becomes the starter, he's going to win a lot because he's a winner. And the Raiders are building around him, so he will have the coaching, the offensive line, the skill set players. And he will be our leader throughout Raider Nation to go into Arrowhead. I mean, when was the last time Mahomes really worried about coming to Vegas? Like never? Like, you think Mahomes ever got on the plane going to Vegas and said, "Oh my God, when I hit the ground there, I'm going to be running for my life. I might get taken out in a body bag." He's never thought of that once. Now we have an opportunity to really get after Mahomes, who's in the absolute prime of his career. He's coming off an injury, but he's a very, very good player. Very, very good player, and he'll be good here for a while longer. So when I take a look at the future of the Raiders, the greatness of the Raiders are in its future. That came from the great Maverick Al Davis. It's Fernando. I'm not saying Fernando by himself, but it's obviously Fernando. Who the hell else you think is going to take us to the promised land like Jim Plunkett, Rich Gannon, Ken Stabler? Derek Carr was a very good player for this organization and in this league. Fernando has got to be at the level of the Snake and Plunkett. I don't know anybody in Raider Nation who doesn't believe that he can have the accomplishments of Ken Stabler and Jim Plunkett. I don't know anybody. Everybody that I talk to on the front lines and the back lines of Raider Nation say this is the guy that we can put all our chips on. So that's what I'm doing here every day. So as I'm getting murdered on the radio in Kansas City, it'd be nice if I can hear from some Raider fans about Kansas City and Vegas or around the country. Because, again, I said this a million times. I could not do this show in Vegas without the country, because it wouldn't work. Vegas just doesn't work to the point where I'm used to the success I've had on radio for 30 years. I can't rely on Vegas yet to be a part of this show consistently every day. I can rely on San Francisco, Oakland, L.A., New Jersey, and a piece of Vegas. But I need Vegas to step up with this rivalry with Kansas City, because Kansas City is coming into our building. They're taking over our building. They're buying tickets. They're roaming through the concourse, and they're feeling too comfortable. They're feeling too comfortable. Kelsey and his brothers are doing podcasts here. Mahomes has his golf tournament in Vegas at Shadow Creek. The Chiefs feel like they own Vegas. That's got to stop. The only way it's going to stop, in my humble opinion, it has to start with the black hole. the most notorious fan base in sports. They dominated Oakland. They need to dominate here. Mark Jones, Cisco, our team, everybody at the Black Hole is trying hard to build memberships so they can put people in black, put them in the end zone, take them on the road, and do what we did in Oakland. Okay, what we did in Oakland will never be done here. It has to be different. Okay, it's too much entertainment here, which I love, and it's great. It's good for winning in football. But when you see the Raiders at their best, it's going to be when they're winning at the highest level. And unfortunately, that's going to mean some bandwagon fans have got to come back. And some new bandwagon fans got to get on board. And how can you get on board? You just put on black. And you denounce your former team. And you say, I'm a Raider fan. I'm a Raider fan. I'm in the Black Hole. I got a membership. Here's my card. And I'm going to all the games, and I ain't selling my tickets to Kansas City Chiefs fans. That's it. I got into an argument with a buddy of mine on a text group the other day because they put their tickets up for sale. And you know what I said in the text response? I go, including Kansas City? And he said, yeah, why? I go, oh, my God. What are you doing? Give me your Kansas City tickets, and I'll pay you for them. You're not going to put your Kansas City tickets out on the market. You know who's going to buy Kansas City tickets? Oh, Kansas City fans. So I said this about the Golden Knights when I went to the Stanley Cup Game 6. We were at Beer House before with my son, and we were walking over, and I saw Carolina fans, but not all of them had a ticket. They were there to party. But there were Carolina fans inside because they knew there was a chance they could win the Cup. And the problem about selling your tickets when you're a hockey fan is people know. Because hockey is a much tight-knit fan base for season ticket holders and football fans. It's no secret a lot of ticket brokers bought Raider tickets, right? A lot of people bought Raider tickets to sell. Hockey fans are pretty loyal. They're really loyal. And if you don't show up in your seats for a hockey playoff game, oh, everybody knows. Everybody knows that you're not in your seats. Hey, why isn't Jack and Mary in their seats? They were here this year for 35 games. Where are they? Why are there Carolina fans in red sweaters sitting in Jack and Mary seats? Because Jack and Mary weren't loyal. They took the almighty dollar in Game 6 when we needed everyone in that building wearing Vegas gear. It's a problem. You know, we just sold tickets minutes ago for AVP Volleyball at Resorts World. Right? We had an interview. People are going to buy tickets and go. You know, I just try to tell everybody in sports it's the same thing. I was in New York City last week for Game 3. I could have went to the game, and I got some pretty good connections back in New York. All the people that I knew who could help me get into the Knick game couldn't help me get into the Knick game for under $4,000. You know, I'm not going to spend $4,000 to go to a game to sit in the upper deck, right? So normally I get a credential, I go to a game, but it was out of control. It doesn't cost $4,000 to go to a Raider game. But the opposing fans, I can preach this. The Buffalo Bills fans are going to buy up every bleeping ticket we have in this town if we don't close the circle. You know what Chris Berman said? You know, Buffalo, no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo fans that I know, because I went to college not too far from there, they are ringing my phone off the hook. Can you get me 2? No. Can you get me 4? No. What do you mean no? Every ticket's sold. Allegiant Stadium's sold out. All the tickets are sold. Now, there's a couple they hold back, but there's no tickets for you from Buffalo. So what you're going to do is you're going to go online and you're going to pay over $300 or $400 more for a ticket so you can tell you went in there. Raider fans have to do a better job at making sure their first option when they sell their tickets are to Raider fans who are willing to pay the premium. I paid a PSL for my tickets. I paid a premium for my tickets. My tickets cost a certain amount of money. And if you're going to sell your tickets, the first choice should be Raider fans, who I think will pay you a premium. But if Kansas City fans want to pay more than your friends who are Raider fans, you're really going to look your Raider fans in the eyes who want to pay you a fair amount and over the price and sell it for a little bit more to a Kansas City fan? You know who these people are. You know who they are. You know them by first name. We got to stop that trend because I think it's a trend that has to be stopped. Going back, as I put a bow on this, Fernando Mendoza. My wife, who's a season ticket holder, she'll be with me Monday for the Raiders draft class luncheon. We all know that Fernando Mendoza can change our lives here in Vegas. If he turns out to be the player we expect him to be, the Raiders can leapfrog the Chargers and the Broncos and Kansas City in the next 2 to 3 years and be on top of the division for years to come. Kansas City did it for a decade. I'm not saying the Raiders can do it for a decade, but the Raiders might be able to do it for 4 or 5 seasons in a row. And in those 4 or 5 seasons in a row, when the Raiders win the division and Fernando Mendoza's still in his 20s, not in his 30s, the Raiders will be going to the playoffs with home games and or a bye week with an opportunity at Allegiant Stadium to go to the Super Bowl. And then at that time, I will never be blanking and moaning about tickets and who's going or not. That's where I want to get to, where I don't have to spend 10 minutes on my radio show going, why was there half-capacity Kansas City fans in those seats? I know the answer. Raiders aren't good. Kansas City wants to come and take over, and opposing fans will pay whatever they want to get your tickets. That's the ultimate explanation to what's going on. There's no other way. Don't let anybody tell you it's anything different. So the only way to stop that is Raiders become not good, great. Raider fans don't sell their tickets, and we all go out of our way to keep those scoundrels out of our building. 702-365-9200. Thanks to Phil Villapiano, who joined us, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, and Hagen Smith, the AVP volleyball player, as we continue. Knicks wrapped up their parade today. Ooh, Schauffele's 2 under. Where'd that come from, Colin? Xander Schauffele, 2 under. We got a new leaderboard. Rory McIlroy's 1 under. He shot 69. Oberg 1 under at 69.
This is looking like one of those cases where the later group started to get a little bit better weather. You could tell.
Look at the weather. It's blue skies and no wind. Today it was blowing 42 miles an hour on the first tee. You make a great point. Golf's all about when you go out in the first 2 rounds. I was at a U.S. Open where Lucas Glover, 2 days of pouring rain, he went out when it didn't rain both days and took the lead and ended up winning the U.S. Open. Bryson DeChambeau just hit a drive from East Hampton to Montauk. I mean, I think he hit a 400-yard drive. The games are on USA. And I want to give a shout out to Peacock this morning. You know, I got all these apps. I don't even ask my wife. My knees buckle when I ask my wife how much this cost. Like, how much does this cost? Like, what's it cost to me? Like, and I know why I get Amazon for free, because I get 30 boxes a day delivered to my house, so I should get it for free. They should pay me. But I don't know what promotion we did to get Peacock, and I've been mostly complaining about it for the whole time. Today I woke up and they had exclusively the NBA Championship Parade, and then they had the featured groups that I wanted to watch. Like, I don't want to watch everybody. I wanted to watch the featured groups, and they had it. So a shout out to Peacock today for doing a great job. Open lines. All my guests were great today. My callers are either sleeping or they're in a food coma coming off lunch. Maybe I won't get shut out this hour, and we'll finish strong. 702-365-9200 as we continue on. A brand new partner to announce tomorrow. Today we bring in Aspen Vodka. It tastes as good as it sounds, especially with the water, the way they make it. Aspen, Colorado, fantastic. I took a crash course in it, and it's fantastic. Aspen Vodka, that's the official vodka of the Raiders. So when you're walking around the concourse, you want a vodka soda like I do? Shh. You know, I'm on an off day. You know, I'll take one. There'll be Aspen Vodka there, and they have a really cool drink, Raiderade. I've never heard of that. How come I didn't come up with that, Colin? Raiderade. Like Gatorade, it's called Raiderade with Aspen Vodka. That sounds good, doesn't it?
Sounds like the perfect thing to beat the heat with.
Are you a beer guy or a spirits guy?
I'm more of a beer fella myself.
Are you a local beer guy? Are you a brew guy that likes something kind of way out there, like a local brew? What do you like?
I do like to try a local brewery, especially as I've moved around to different locations. Okay. I like to see what a lot of the local breweries have to offer.
Have you been downtown here as you're coming out of the Strat, going to Fremont Street? There's a lot of local breweries there that are fantastic.
I haven't had the chance yet. I'll have to keep it down.
Yeah, well, maybe one of the brewmen are listening and want to be a partner of the show. We'll wrap it up on the other side. If you miss any portion of the show, you can find it at LV Sports Network. We also have a brand new Raider Nation Radio YouTube channel where you're getting a lot of unique content that you'll be getting over at training camp and all the other things that are happening around town. I'm sure a lot of that will be there, and we'll talk about that on Monday at the Raiders Draft Class Luncheon. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. I just got the rundown. Vince Sapienza will be in for me on Monday. I appreciate Vince stepping up for me, and I'll be at Allegiant Stadium with the sports coat on with Fernando and a couple of the rookies. I'll tell you the other rookies who will be in attendance next.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by Modelo Especial, the new #1 beer in the U.S.
It's dumped in with 10 seconds to go. On the Carolina bench, they are embracing, jumping, and hugging one another as the clock runs out on 2026. The Stanley Cup championship goes to the Carolina Hurricanes. They defeat the Golden Knights in shutout fashion, 3-0. Brandon Bussey earns the shutout in his third straight win. And the Hurricanes win the Stanley Cup for the second time in franchise history.
Brandon Bussey won the Stanley Cup. Wow, he grew up not too far away from where this U.S. Open is. He grew up in Long Island, New York, out east. He's a backup goalie, and he won the Stanley Cup beating our Golden Knights. You kidding me? A backup goalie beat us, shut us out in our building, shut us out with me in attendance, no less. I mean, I was there. I didn't go there for 3-0. Listen to Kelly McCrimmon. Listen to the GM of this team as he defends the decisions they've made along the way to try to improve this franchise.
So first and foremost, people come here because we try to win. They like being on teams that try to win. There's players in the NHL that are on teams that I don't think the players are confident the team will win.
Yeah, that's a great soundbite. He's like, if you want to criticize us here, go ahead. We could care less. We're here to win. I love that. 702-365-9200. Big Al in San Francisco. You and I have been friends for decades, and we can finally celebrate our Knicks winning a world championship. How you feeling?
Yeah. I'm okay. I'm very happy about the Knickerbockers. I'm sorry I haven't been able to call in. Look, it was a wonderful thing. I got to watch every minute, every second of all 5 of those games. And Game 4, I never thought they would win until they won. But Game 5, and I've never been a Brunson hater, but I never thought that he was the guy that was going to have to be my best player to win. And I applaud him because he was the best player, and then they won. And my God, 45 points. And the way he dominated that game, and it was interesting because I'm watching the game, and at the last field goal that he made, Wembanyama couldn't even get his arms up. He was so gassed. And that was really much more, Brunson was fantastic, but that was really much more about the other Knick defenders making him work for everything that he had to end up getting, whether it was a rebound, whether it was getting a ball out on the wing, or even when he was having to defend, whether Towns was in the game, who missed a lot of the game because of foul trouble, Anunoby, whatever the case may be. They, as a team, they made him work. And it was really, it was wonderful to see. I'm incredibly happy. And I wish I could have gone to the parade. And you know me, JT, I never go to parades. And I don't watch award shows. I would have gone to that parade if I was back east.
Yeah, so would I. I would have went. I would have went also. But as an NBA stat guy like you are, did you ever see a team, and you probably have because you do a lot of NBA work, as stupid as the Spurs taking. How many times have you and I talked on the air, off the air, about shooting threes when you have a lead and you don't have to? And the Spurs fell right into the trap, up 13, up 17, up 22, shooting threes early into the shot clock that gave the Knicks life.
They did it way too often, especially in Game 4 after the Knicks had the 29-point lead. But that was even accentuated in Game 5 because they were up double digits in that game as well. And, everybody's beating up on De'Aaron Fox, and De'Aaron, he for the most part deserves it. But the Spurs as a team, it's almost like they did not understand how to play fundamental basketball. That kind of stuff goes back to AAU, and a lot of these guys on this team, including Harper, who is sensational, are only 3 years out of AAU. I want you to think about that, how young some of these guys are, 3-4 years out of AAU. And in AAU, they just rely on their athleticism, and they have no idea how to play. So it's, the Spurs, they're going to rebound. They're going to come back, but they have to change that roster, especially at the end of the roster, because the coach has no confidence in playing anybody on that team over 6'8". And they're going to have to, and, they got to make a decision in the backcourt. I don't know if you can bring Fox back, but that's not a tradable contract.
Yeah.
But for the Knicks, you're going to bring back all 5 of those starters. You got to find a way able to bring back Robinson without overpaying him. He's a very good player, but let's not overpay him.
Yeah.
You can't. And you got to bring back Alvarado. You don't need to bring back Shamet. Shamet's he's a commoditized 3-and-D guard. Yeah, he's 3-and-D guy. Somebody's going to be stupid enough to pay him a lot of money.
Yep.
But he's he did well. I'm proud of him. He's always a Knick. But let's hope the Knicks make the right decision.
Right,
bring back Alvarado and take it from there.
Thanks, Big Al. Appreciate it. What's so great about this Knick win is none of these guys have to do anything else the rest of their life. None of them. They're made men. They're done. Now, of course, they want to win more. Look at Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, right? You want to win more than one if you can. But these Knicks who were down today at City Hall in the Canyon of Heroes, they're done. The rest of their lives, they'll go into any bar, restaurant. They'll go anywhere, and they'll be recognized. And when they're 50 years old, they're all in their 20s. They're going to say, thank you for giving us our first championship in 53 years. And I think, I always try to tie it back to the Raiders on this platform. That's what it could be like for Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers didn't grow up a Raider fan. If Brock Bowers can lead the Raiders to a Super Bowl victory, you know how many Raider fans there are on earth? Like Far East, Europe, everywhere where Brock Bowers can walk into any cathedral, restaurant, hotel, and people are like, thank you. Thank you for giving me my life back as a champion. That's what these guys play for, man. They play to win. Thanks again to Phil Villapiano. Buy his new book, Just Tackle Baby. It's kind of funny. I didn't read the book yet, right? But I wanted to get him on to sell the book. Listen to some of these chapters. Chapter 1, Super Bowl 11. Chapter 2, The Immaculate Reception. Asbury Park, Bowling Green, The Raider Way. 1976 regular season. 1977-79 injury. 1980, the Cinderella Bills. This chapter, Chapter 15, toe sucking and the final injury. Don't know what that means. Death and divorce. Death and divorce. How about that chapter? From California Raisin Bowl to the American Gladiators. Chapter 18, how to build the second career. So I can't wait for this. And Fred Bolitnikoff wrote the foreword. So congratulations to Phil. Whenever someone writes a book, it is a task. It is a task. So we'll be able to sell these books. I know the Raiders are going to help along the way. And check that out. Q is coming up next with a great show. Always listen to our entire lineup. Tomorrow's kind of interesting because I can't wait to be on the radio. I love being on the radio. But the show starts during USA, the soccer game. A lot of people are going to be watching the soccer game tomorrow, but I'm going to be covering the soccer game live on radio. So that'll be tomorrow as Australia and the USA play in Seattle. Weather looks great in Seattle. I'm going to go home and watch some golf. And I like the leaderboard. Schauffele 2 under. Clark. DeChambeau. Hey, DeChambeau's 2 under. That's pretty good. Rory shot 69 along with Oberg. They're 1 under. The weather's getting great later in the day, and then the weather should be better. So that'll probably have an effect. Thanks to our new partner, Aspen Vodka. We appreciate them as they have faith in us that we will promote Aspen Vodka and get you to try it and buy it and support it going forward. Wow, fun day today. Appreciate everybody. And nice guest. That was a fun guest, Hagen Smith. That AVP volleyball player, man, that guy's going to have a pretty cool life. Guy travels around. He's going to China, he told me, with a surfboard. He's bringing a surfboard to play volleyball to China, looking for some waves.
He totally looks like one of those Point Break type of guys,
he looks
too,
like
you
he
know?
should be in a movie, Point Break.
He's going to tear it up down there. Like you said, the day clubs, it's his type of ride.
I think him walking through a day club would make a lot of people happy. All right, everybody, listen to Q. And again, lvsportsnetwork.com. I'm on Instagram, the gram at JTTheBrickLV. And we appreciate you subscribing to our YouTube channel. We're trying to get past a number here. We need a few more of you to log on and subscribe for free. So while you're going to Raider Nation Radio on YouTube and my YouTube channel, just hit subscribe. It's free, and you get all the other content that we have. Have a great rest of the day. Appreciate you listening. It's hot out there. Take those pets for a walk before 7 a.m. They deserve great lives, too.